So I came home last night from watching the... Oh, sorry. So I came home last night from the watching the Sydney International Piano Competition with... with my dad and my auntie. Hey Jays, what did you think of that?
Oh, we got the bloody Fazzioli back.
Awesome. Dad's excited because the new piano is coming out.
Yeah.
It's the Fazzioli.
But it's not the Steinway.
Amazing.
It's the Fazzioli.
And my wife was like, I have a surprise for you. And I was like, awesome. What's it gonna be? I was super tired. And she's like, I just got you tickets to the opening of Star Trek Beyond in IMAX. And I was like, what up? Do do do. Do 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 do. I got sick. So further to the story about those amazing IMAX tickets that my wife got for me, unfortunately I got extremely sick for the last few days. There you go, baby.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we had to get a refund for those tickets because I was literally in bed with fevers. But now we are going to go to see Star Trek Beyond, and I'm extremely excited.
Woohoo! Not quite IMAX, but one day.
One day.
At least we got a refund.
Yes, that's good. So with the new Star Trek movie that's just come out, Star Trek Beyond in 2016, this is the third of the new reboot of Star Trek. There are many reasons for continuing a franchise and for rebooting a whole series of movies in the vein of the old movies, using the same characters and the same plot devices, the same ships, same aliens, same planets, all that kinds of stuff. And some of those reasons might be that the studio want to continue what they call the legacy. They want the new generation to learn about Star Trek. They want to learn about what it all means and why it's important, and reintroduce them to the characters that people 40 and 50 years ago got to learn about. Another reason is money. By locking into an existing franchise, especially one with the following of Star Trek, which as far as I'm aware is the second largest following, certainly the second largest science fiction following in history other than Star Wars. By locking into that, they're able to make a lot of revenue off the previous fans, who then, by word of mouth, encourage new fans. And that creeps into the merchandise sales as well. So here's my problem. So I'm someone who grew up on the next generation of Star Trek. They were essentially, they helped raise me. Jean-Luc Picard, Data, Geordi, Dr. Crusher, Wesley, Riker, they all helped to raise me essentially. They taught me a lot about what life could be and what the future could be. And they also taught me about how humans could be if they wanted to. That led me to the follow-up series, which was Star Trek DS9, followed by Star Trek Voyager. So I'm not going to offer a critique on Star Trek Beyond the movie because it has its merits, and as with most movies, it has good things and it has bad things. And if you're a person who's not really into Star Trek and just enjoys movies, you'd probably go there and you'd probably enjoy it. But if you're a person who grew up with Star Trek and that the philosophy of Star Trek is part of your own personality, and that you've come to agree in your own personal life stance with some of the philosophies that Star Trek portray in the original series, the Voyager series, the Deep Space Nine series, and the Next Generation series, then you will be incredibly gutted It's taken me since 2009 when the first Star Trek reboot came out, but I can finally say after seeing the third movie that I'm definitely one of those people that is gutted by this attempt. Here are 4 reasons why the Star Trek movies rebooted are essentially cultural vandalizations of what Star Trek is. And I don't believe that 2009, 2012 and 2016 Star Trek movies, I don't believe that they should be called Star Trek, even though they use the names of the same characters. I believe they should be called something like Die Hard in Space, or Lethal Weapon, or Under Siege 3. Number 1. The primary philosophy of Star Trek, and the one that made it unique other than any other science fiction TV series or movie series that exists in the world today, or even literature, is that it promotes the idea of humans need to create an understanding of what they don't understand, even in the face of incredible uncertainty and even under the threat of violence and death. They still need to strive to have an understanding of something else and allow it to become part of them, or accept it into our understanding. There are an endless number of episodes where the crew, whoever they might be on this ship, encounter a species or a planet that makes absolutely no sense. They don't look like anything that they recognize, or they don't talk like anything they recognize, or they have cultural practices which you and I would consider completely barbaric and horrible, but that we must understand, that we can't correct. In these episodes, you are conflicted because you are trying to impose your own set cultural beliefs and your own personal beliefs onto another race of beings that have been raised in a completely different environment and come to believe a completely different thing. And the normal human instinct is to try and fight to change that, to make it into what you believe is right. And what Star Trek teaches is that you cannot do that, and that you do not have the personal or cultural or legal right to try and change another culture into what you believe they should be. And in fact, by learning to understand why they're like that way and why they do what they do, even if it is horrific or barbaric or wrong, by understanding that we add something to ourselves and we learn something about ourselves and we become better people. In the modern Star Trek reboot movies, they show absolutely no sense of acceptance of anything foreign or anything that is hard to understand. They show no learning, no ethical considerations or moral considerations, no challenges whatsoever in the human belief system. Everything is an enemy, and everything must be shot and killed with a laser or a bomb, or be charged into or annihilated. Every single enemy is not contacted with a sense of inquisition, but contacted with a sense of violence and imposition and cultural ethnocentricity. Number 2. In Star Trek, the process of discovery is exciting to the crewmates. It is valuable, and it is in fact the highest priority of every member of the ship. Everyone on the ship is not just working so that they can get paid and take care of their families and go home. The philosophy on the ship is that everyone is working hard in whatever capacity they are doing to discover what is out there in what they call the final frontier, or in space. In the Star Trek reboot movies, there is no striving to understand anything outside of ourselves. There is no striving or enthusiasm or excitement about finding something new and seeing how does that work, what is it, why is it there, is there anything we can learn from it and improve ourselves with. There is none of it. Everything outside of human colonization in space in the new Star Trek reboots is scary, must be killed, is our enemy, or must be assimilated by human culture. It cannot exist on its own. It cannot have its own beliefs. Number 3. The core crew that were on the screen for majority of the time in any Star Trek series was always what they called the bridge crew, or the crew that was made up of the captain, the first officer, the science officer, all the heads of the departments that worked in the headquarters of the ship and steered the ship, probably because they're the most interesting members to really look at, I think, on the screen. Now, because they are the crew that are being looked at on the screen, they are viewed in terms of their duty to the ship. They're the people in charge. They're not just randoms who have just a toy ship and they can fly wherever they want, do whatever they want, and care about whatever they want. They all have an intrinsic duty to the crew of their ship. Something in the case of Next Generation, there are over 1,000 people on the ship, and their primary responsibility is to ensure the safety of those crew members, to not put them into unnecessary danger, and when there is danger, to do what they can to ensure the survival of the crew. That is the number one priority, other than the protection of the cultures that they're encountering. There are many episodes and many instances in the previous Star Trek movies where the captain, the first officer, the science officer, the medical officer, all of these people are willing to give up their lives so that the crew can survive. They'll do anything they can to keep the crew out of danger, even if it means not investigating an interesting phenomenon or not saving one person. They understand that the security of the large crew outweighs the death of a single member. And they're actually taught in their training in Star Trek that they have to order people to die in order to save the rest of the crew. They have to actually send crew members to their death, and the crew members are trained to understand that they may be sent to their death in order to save the rest of the ship. And that is an accepted responsibility in Star Trek, and that is an accepted responsibility in today's military as well. That is not an accepted responsibility in the new Star Trek reboots. In fact, anytime that one of the main bridge members, usually either Spock or Kirk, get into trouble, the rest of the bridge crew will endanger the entire ship and all the people on board just to save them. It doesn't matter what they're doing, they will put the entire ship in danger just because their friend is in danger. The philosophy of doing your duty and doing what you can to protect the rest of the crew is completely out of the window in terms of the new Star Trek series. There is no sense of duty whatsoever. They just do what they want, whenever they want, with whatever they want. They just abuse their power. Not only that, but they don't actually use any of the rest of the crew to actually do anything they need to do. They always just leave the bridge and do it themselves. The captain, whenever an adventure comes along or something needs to be done somewhere else on the ship or on a planet, he leaves the bridge, gives command to someone else, and does it himself. That is the last duty of a commanding officer, and anyone in the previous Star Trek series would know that. Not only that, but in Star Trek Beyond, there are scenes where the enemy actually shoots and kills crew members right next to the bridge crew. The bridge crew are actually standing on the bridge. The enemy comes bursting in, kills a bunch of crew members around them, just dead, lying on the ground, and the crew and the bridge crew don't even react. They don't even look down and scream, "No!" or shout out their names, or or mourn for them. They just do their awesome look at the camera going, "Oh no, those bastards," just looking at the camera with an anonymous look. It's absolutely retarded. They don't even know any of the crew members' names. One of the best things about Jean-Luc Picard was anytime anyone died on the ship as part of an episode, he would shout out their names or know their names, or someone else would know their names, and they would kneel beside them and they would mourn their death, no matter who it was, all the way down. And that is the sense of true leadership and caring about your crew. But the bridge crew of the latest Star Trek reboot doesn't give a shit about the crew at all. He will steer the ship into a brick wall and let them all die as long as he can eject at the last minute and save Spock. Literally, they don't know the names of any of the crew. They just watch them die. There's no remorse on their face. Doesn't matter the situation. Never happens. They're more interested in saving themselves and their friends than saving the crew. If I was a crew member on the ship, I would try and have them killed, or try and have them fired, or dishonorably discharged, or just get off the ship. Number 4. Star Trek at its very heart is basically an exploration of what it is to be human. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, talks about in his interviews the races that make up the Star Trek universe, the Romulans, the Klingons, the Vulcans, the Bajorans. All of these races represent a certain aspect of humanity, whether it be our violent side or our religious side or our thoughtful, conniving, conspiring side or our peaceful side. Every aspect of Star Trek is designed to explore an aspect of our own humanity, and by exploring and by going along these stories with these races in the context of exploring the unknown, we are being entertained, but at the same time we are exploring what it is to be human, the various aspects of being human, and how we react to a single aspect of humanity that if it's isolated on its own and brought to life. By doing this, it gives you a really amazing perspective about the weaknesses and the strengths of the human race. What makes us amazing and wonderful and pure, and what makes us disgusting and horrible sometimes. What traits you might want to enhance as part of who you are, and what traits you might want to think, you know what, I hate that particular aspect of humanity and I don't want to have that in my life. The new Star Trek reboot movies have none of that. They do not explore any aspect of humanity whatsoever. They never look at various races or various cultures or various behaviors or various thought patterns and discuss whether that is the right or wrong thing to do. They always just have a generic good guy, a generic bad guy, shoot the generic bad guy, hang off cliffs, hang off lasers, listen to awesome music and yell wahoo at the end, and then contemplate at the end about how awesome they are. It's cheap, it's generic, it's simple, it does nothing for any of the Star Trek philosophies that I have talked about. The new Star Trek, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond are not Star Trek films. I'm sorry. Even if they've been given this title of Star Trek, and even though they've been given the names of the characters from the original Star Trek series, that this is not Star Trek. This is Die Hard in space. This is Star Wars. This is shit put on the screen so that the studios can try and make some more money out of a franchise. I can't watch them anymore.